Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live show. We're just waiting for Maria to get on and then we can get started. So, because we're going to be talking about insecurity and just building your self confidence, of course, we have to play pretty good. Here's Maria. Let's just get her in. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Are we good?
Can you hear and see me?
Yes, I can.
Okie dokie, I'm
How
here.
are you? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Let me tell you this. I really do appreciate our lives being on
Really?
Wednesdays. I think this should be our day. Yeah. Because top of the week could be really heavy for me because I be thinking I be doing the most,
Mm-hmm.
And then like Wednesday, I was like, oh, like yesterday, I was like, wait, do I have to go live tonight? I was like, okay, no.
That
And
was
it
me
felt
too yesterday. I was like,
right.
ooh, I feel like I'm missing something.
I was like, all right, but I was like, okay. So I feel like Wednesday should be like the Embrace Her Legacy show days.
Right.
It used to
I
be.
feel like,
Remember that was the day we used to drop our podcast episodes on Wednesdays.
yeah, I feel like it's just like in the middle of the week. It's a good pick me up. So,
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. A time is to be had.
right. I'm ready for
hmm
tonight's conversation. I told my homegirls to get on because we have a lot to unpack today.
Right, and I feel like this is such a popular uh topic outside of the relationships, honey, because everybody want to talk about
And
relationships, but I think like
love.
love and stuff, and everybody got something to say. But I think something about self assurance and confidence. I think this is like super important. So be ready.
Yeah. You want to wait a little longer to let the people roll in? Or are you ready to get started?
I guess we could just get started. I mean, if you want to give the people 30 more
We can give the
seconds,
people for 30 more seconds. Just enjoy Carrie.
I know, right? We call her Miss Carrie. I love that
Right.
song. I love that song. I think Carrie Hilson is too pretty too. Like I think she's like one of the most like we don't hear a lot about Carrie
Mm-hmm.
Hilson, but I think she's so
But
like
she's
beautiful.
popping.
She's cute, and I love her movies. Like you know what I'm saying? Like her movies be lit. Yeah.
Okay,
So I love
the
that.
people are flowing
Yeah,
in. Hello,
people are.
everyone.
We are. We are getting about to get started. So I guess our 30 seconds is up.
Right.
And we could, yeah, I guess we can get the show started. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hello, everyone. We are back again, Embrace Her Legacy, with our amazing live show. And before we get started, because it is the month of March, I want to wish all of my legendary women out there a happy Women's History Month. We are all so dope. Thank you for all that you do, and just keep doing your thing because we love it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about how to deal with self-doubt, lack of confidence, and rejection, and how we can turn that feeling of insecurity into being self-assured. And if you don't know, Embrace Their Legacy talks a lot about our inner saboteur. And if you don't know what that is, that's that little voice inside your head that tries to tell you that you can't, even though you can, and tries to tell you all these negative things about yourself that aren't true. So tonight, we're getting rid of her. She's going away. And of course, like always, I'll be having this conversation with our founder and CEO, Maria Melendez, who is truly our inspirational homegirl. And if you like what we do, you like our live shows, and you want to keep up with us, then follow us on all of our social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, all that jazz. And of course, make sure that you subscribe to our Patreon page where we have exclusive Embrace Her Legacy content for all of our professional queens out there. And we have something fresh and fun. If you or someone that you know is 14 to 19 years old and want more guidance on how to step into the young woman that you want to be, then apply to our Summer Institute program that will be happening this July right in NYC.
Boop,
Yeah,
boop, boop, boop. I want to be like, I kind of want to be real Brooklyn and do like, booyaka, but I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. But good job, Isis. Isis
thank you.
is really getting good at these
Thank
intros. Oh my
you.
God. Look at you, honey.
And if anybody needs a link to our Patreon or to the application to send to anyone you know or you want to apply or have more info, it is pinned down below. Take a screenshot, do your thing.
Boom.
All
Boom,
right.
boom. I
All
love that.
right.
This is
Thank you. This is really giving live
It's the
show, okay?
live show. We are elevating.
Hmm.
Everything is coming to going to the next level. You see it on our social. You'll see a lot of cool things coming down the line. It's time to grow
Right.
and graduate.
Well, I definitely want to get started. Let's unpack, get down to the nitty-gritty. Are you ready?
I am ready, and I know I took a lot of notes, and I have some other things I'm going to share with the people. So I'm excited.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So the first question that I have, and I really want to hear your answer to this, what steps can you give to yourself to have more confidence and to have more trust in yourself?
Okay. So this is a lot, okay? I want everyone who's watching this to understand that this is a jam-packed conversation
Hmm.
and we're not gonna figure like you're not gonna figure it all out tonight. So I'm probably gonna be sharing a lot more than I would have because I was trying. I was
Hmm.
looking at the question. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to share. But confidence is definitely like a muscle and you have to work on it to get stronger.
Hmm.
Like you get what I'm saying? So if if I were to like I work out, right? But let's say I were to go on a I don't know. Let's say I were to do like a really extreme workout
Hmm.
tomorrow with, weightlifting and all this other stuff. You better believe that my muscles are going to be sore on Friday. And why is that? That's because I haven't worked on those muscles, or those muscles are being worked out in a new way that those muscles are not used to being worked out. So
Hmm.
that's what I say with confidence is something that's going to muscle that you have to work on. And the more you work on it, the stronger you will get at it, right? And
Hmm.
another caveat, it just might take some time and it's a lifelong thing. I don't think we ever the way we're creative as human beings, there's going to be days that you may feel a little less confident than others. There's going to be situations and moments and circumstances, but the thing is, how do I have a healthy relationship with myself and whatever insecurities that were once there, because I'm not going to claim those, but those I guess areas of improvement. How do I deal with that in a healthier way, and how do I, get back up? So the first thing I would say when it steps to like building your confidence and more trust in yourself is first I would write down all my strengths and what you do and what you've done well.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people think that's hard. If I ask people what's wrong with them, they will probably give me a list of 50, 100, 50 million thousand things.
Hmm.
But if I ask you what's right and what you like about you, that list tends to be a little bit less. So I would say start writing out what you like about yourself, what are your strengths. And if you don't know and you're like, dang, a good thing is to talk to people or snap people. Talk to some people who know you well, who
Hmm.
trust you, and who love you, who can say, this is what you do well. This is what I love about you. Not necessarily putting your worth or your meaning in what other people say about you, but there's
Oh, I can hear you now.
timer went out. So there's a benefit in beauty in talking to people because they may see things about you that you don't see about yourself, and it's
Hmm.
something. It's amazing. There's actually an assessment, a leadership assessment I took called 360 Leadership Assessment, and I didn't know. I know this sounds arrogant, but it's not in the same way because I didn't know how dope of a leader I
Oh.
was until I took that assessment. And everybody was like, yeah, you do this. I was in here like, I am horrible. I'm this and this and that. But that gave me more confidence in my leadership ability when I took this assessment because I had to share that assessment with other people. And people were asking, they were kind of like rating my leadership, right? So it was really, so that's the benefits of sometimes talking to people who love you, who have the best interest in your heart to say, hey, what are my strengths, right? So now you can start building confidence in yourself. Write down your areas of improvement, right? We all have them, whatever areas are secure, whatever. And then instead of magnifying your weaknesses, I would say start focusing on making your strengths stronger. right? So if I heard my pastor say this other book, there was this book that he was reading. I forgot. I think it was Discover Your Strengths. I forgot the name of the book, but pretty much there was a book, and the coach was coaching like some type of ping pong champion, and I don't know about ping pong, but pretty much he was really strong on his right hand and horrible at his left arm, at his left hand, right? And instead of the coach focusing on making the left hand stronger, he just focused on making that right hand thing so strong that the player would never have to worry about using his left hand. So I think that that's what it is. Laser focus on what you're good at, and building on that, and understanding and identifying your weaknesses or the things that you are insecure about, but not embracing them, but not making an excuse to stay there. Like, all right, cool, I know that this might be a trigger for me, but things like that. Yeah, and then I would say another one, and trusting yourself. Learn to trust your instincts. I think so many of us don't do a good job at that. If you feel it in your chest, if you feel it in your gut, in your spirit, in your soul, trust that. And trust that you can make good decisions, which should be rooted in your values and what's most important to you. Once you grow and you start to understand who you are, what are your values, and you can start to then make good decisions aligned with your values, you'll learn to trust your decision making and trust in yourself, and you'll learn to trust in your gut, trust your instincts. And honestly, that may come with trial and error, because you will get it wrong. There's been times that I've learned, there's been times where I knew something was off about someone and I didn't trust my instinct, and then I learned that I should have trusted my instinct, right? Like, something not right. If you ever have that feeling like something's not right, I don't care if it's you going out on one night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you a story. I got into a car accident, not trusting my instincts, because this is a caveat. Maybe this was somebody, for somebody to hear this. This is one night. This is almost 2011 summer night, Brooklyn night. Setting the scene up for y'all. I'm already on my way home. I get a call from one of my homeboys at the time, and my homeboy and my homegirl were dating. So going to their house was like our Saturday night thing. Like, we would go hang out, whatever, blah blah blah. So they get on the phone. Any other time they'll be like, "Oh, Maria, come over," and I come through, no problem. That night I felt something say, "Maria, don't go." Like, I had a thing that Maria should stay home. Didn't follow that. Went out. Everything was fine. When I came back home in a cab, I got into a car accident. And that night, I said, something told me to stay my little black behind home. So I would say, in your decision making, trust, because that is God. I knew that was God. Now I know. I didn't know that back then. Now I know that's God. So if you feel uneasy about a situation, or you feel good about a situation, like, follow and trust your instincts, because that's God. Normally, I'm speaking to you, and yeah, and honestly, this is gonna take practice. It's like riding a bike. You're gonna get up, you're gonna get on it, you're gonna fall, but you'll get stronger, and you'll learn about your skill sets and your boundaries. You'll learn about your attributes, and that might take time, especially for young women who are in their teens and they're, girl, I didn't become confident till 2018, probably, so, and that was well into my 30s. So I say that to say, and I think a lot of women who are older understand that, man, the woman I was at 18, the girl I was at 18, 21, uh-uh. I was not her. I wasn't who I am now. So I say, give yourself grace. You're gonna have your good days. You're gonna have your not so. Some days are gonna be better than others. But yeah. And the last thing, differentiate who you are with what you do. This generation, we have put our work, our meaning in accolades and bags and vacationing and followings and what you do and who your man is and how many monies, how many hundreds of dollars you have. No, you're not your circumstances. You're not your failures. You're not your seasons. You're not your relationships. You have to find what your identity and confidence is rooted in. And if it's rooted in those things outside of you, baby, you're never gonna be permanently secure. So I would say, yeah, know that you have to find out who you are outside of what you do. Yeah, you might be a nurse, but that's just what you do. That's not who you are. Yeah, you might have $5 to your name. Yeah, that's just a circumstance you're in. That's not who you are. Yeah, you might have 1 million followers. So who are you without the followers? Who are you without the fame? And I posted this yesterday on my page because let me tell you something. And a lot of women are not, and I'm gonna keep it real because I'm the inspirational homegirl. A lot of those women you see who have everything that you may be wanting, like, oh, if I could just have 10,000 followers, oh, if I could just have the latest TV show, oh, if I could just have the dream job, oh, if I could just have the marriage, then I'll feel good about myself. Oh, if I could just have this car, this money, or this body, I could get that BBL, whatever, then I could feel secure about themselves. Baby, let me tell you, a lot of these women, I have encountered them, I have seen them, and who have all those things that you so desire to want and are still broken little insecure girls trapped in 35 and 40 and 30-year-old woman bodies. You know, they just mask it really differently. Insecurity can get masked in so many different ways. So I encourage anyone that's listening, man, be comfortable in your own lane, in your own skin, because everybody's dealing with somebody. There's not a human being who feels on point 1,000% all the time. You know, I'm saying, so don't feel like, oh my God, I need to have this. No, baby girl, you don't need any of that. You are worthy because God says you are. You are enough because God says you are. You know, that's it. That's where your meaning has to come from. And I told you that these answers are going to be a little longer than normal, but I wanted to try and get as much out there because I know this is a real hot topic. So, Isis, I'm going to return the question back to you. What steps can people take to have more confidence and trust in themselves?
Well, to piggyback on what you said, because that was one of my points too. Like for me, when it comes to confidence, of course, I'm still working on, I'm still finding it. Sometimes I have to take social media breaks because to what you said about the BBLs, the cars, the houses, the marriages, the relationships. It's just sometimes it's a little overwhelming, and it's just like, oh my gosh, Instagram and Twitter and all of that is made to be seen or to give off the vibe that it's perfect. And it's like that's so unrealistic. So sometimes I just have to take a step back and be like, okay, my life that I'm living is good. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm this, I'm that, like I'm okay. So I feel like that does play a role sometimes into how we feel about ourselves. So I feel like taking social media breaks is good. With the trust, my friend had said this to me the other day and it really stuck with me, especially with this live. The same trust that you give to others is the same trust that you should be able to give to yourself. Because I feel like sometimes you meet people, you're like, I'm telling you my business, I'm making you my friend because I feel like I can have all this trust in you. And then sometimes they do you dirty. But it's like when it comes to how you feel about yourself, how you go about making decisions, you're second guessing. But it's like if you can so easily trust other people, why are you not putting that same trust into yourself? Like you know yourself better than anybody. So I feel like you should be able to say, nah, I got this. I trust myself. I can make this decision. Regardless of the outcome, I'll be good. I'm going to figure it out. So I feel like that also plays a big role. For me, how I look usually plays into how I feel. So I feel like when it comes to self-confidence, you have to take that extra step to, make yourself look the part, I guess you could say. Because confidence, sometimes you have days where you're like, I'm popping, and some days I'm like, I don't feel that way, so maybe I need to put on a cuter outfit, or maybe I want to do my makeup today because it's going to make me feel good. I feel like those definitely play into confidence. And you taught me this too about not letting people have power over you. Kind of like what you said before. Like if somebody tells me I'm pretty and that is the only way that I feel pretty, the next day if somebody tells me I'm ugly now, that's like changing my whole perspective on myself. So like I just need to look in the mirror and say, no, I'm pretty because I said so, not because they did. So I feel like those are some pretty good steps how you can build your confidence and also journaling. Just even once a day to be like, you know what? I woke up today, I did this, I'm proud of myself. Like the affirmations, I feel like they really do make a difference. And you kind of gotta fake it till you make it. If you tell yourself that you are amazing and you don't necessarily feel that way, once you keep repeating it to yourself, you're gonna wake up and be like, you know what? I am amazing. And I'm gonna take on the day exactly like that. So those are the things that I would tell somebody that was trying to work
Got it. I love that. And another thing that I too just want to piggyback on what you said. we gotta understand confidence is not, and I used to think, I low-key believed that I would be confident when I was perfect and my circumstances were perfect. That's not confidence. First of all, perfectionism is not real.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like it's unattainable. So it's like I don't want people to feel like I have to have it all together to feel good about myself or to feel confident. So like no, a lot of us are doing a lot better than we think. And I think that was really powerful what you said, Isis, about having other people. You can trust others, you can trust yourself. So that's dope. I hope this is helping
I
people. It will.
hope so too.
I'm confident it
Hmm.
will. Hmm.
So my next question for you is, how do you combat those insecurities and turn them into self-assurance?
Okay. The first thing I want to assure people, and especially my ladies out there, about is that you're not alone. Yeah, like I said, I think we in this space, especially in this last decade, where social media has proliferated into the masses. Right? I didn't have to deal with this when I was 16. Baby, I already had my struggles at 16, figure life out, regular schmegula. So imagine
Hmm.
adding the pressure of all these cameras and phones and having to be on all the time, so you're not alone. I was actually hearing a interview about with Michelle Obama, and she was asked a similar question, and she said, listen, I struggle with this all the time. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's good to know that as women and men, you're not alone. Everybody has their moments of doubt, of insecurity of their own selves, right? So that's the first thing. Like, it's normal. You are human. You will get through it. Then honestly, stop letting your feelings decide. At some point you gotta buck up to your feelings. I just did
Hmm.
it before this live. I was out here screaming, and that's just me. I'm always affirming, and I mean, I'm a believer, so I always have a scripture to back up every negative thought. I'm like, that's not what the Bible says. So I think there comes a point where you have to fight back. You can't let your feelings always decide. Now it's okay to feel those things, and this is like, at what point do you get tired of dealing with
Right.
that? There comes a point where you like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live, you don't want to live your life in doubt and insecurity and letting everything sway you from left to right. So I think it's important to stop letting your feelings aside and to say enough is enough. Come hook or crook, hella high water, I'm going to get into a better relationship with myself and be self-assured. So that's when you decide to have a good opinion of yourself. It's a
Hmm.
decision. Change is an event. Change is a process, right? And my pastor taught us that. Dr. Bernard, shout out to him for CCC, but he said, he taught us change is not an event, but it's a process. But the catalyst is a decision. Like, change comes with it. When you decide if you need to lose the weight, that's the decision. You're like, you know what, I gotta get out. If you decide that you want to get out of that relationship, if you decide that you want to start that business, if you decide you want to go back to school, if you decide you want to maybe even leave school and go start a business, whatever it is, that change started with a decision. So I would say definitely make a decision to change, and then by the way you have a good opinion of yourself, like I said in a previous answer, is use your strengths to inspire you. You're like, dang, you read out what you wrote, what you like. You're like, no, I'm pretty dope. I'm doing a lot better than I think I am. And I like to have I like to have pep talks with myself. And I will be like, listen, I'm like, girl, now you cannot. The same way I'm gonna talk to my best friend. Sometimes you gotta talk to be your own hype man. Sometimes honestly, there are times I said, well, I'll post a picture and I don't see it getting likes. And I'm like, y'all are stupid. I know that sounds real arrogant and real mean, but I'm like, people are just dumb because I am fly and that picture is too cute. Having taking back the power from other people and affirming myself and being self-assured that I'm like, I don't care if two people like this picture. You see my profile, I've liked a lot of my own pictures because I think I am beautiful. I think I'm cute. I'm like, oh, she cute. Whatever. So I would say affirming, having pep talk with yourself. I have post-its in my mirror. As you see, there's post-its behind me. I have just my environment wherever you can. When I wake up in the morning, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm looking at different post-its. For me, it's different scriptures, different things that have stuck out that people said that I'm like, okay, I need to remember that, right? Because it's a battle. It's an everyday fight. And then Honestly, for insecurities, I would try to identify what's at the root of it. Because you can try to play around with it, but baby, you got to get it to the root. Like, why are they there? What was modeled to you about that thing? Whether it could be about your weight, it could be about your hair. Maybe you have insecurity about how you speak. Whatever it is, I had insecurity being a black girl from the projects. I had a big insecurity at that. Why? Because it was something that I didn't know that was a problem. I was very happy. I grew up good. All, for my parents were impressed. I grew up good. I never missed a meal, never missed anything. But it's like, you how did, and all that stuff. So I knew that was where that came from. And sometimes I would try, and a lot of people of color who come from communities that are marginalized and there's a low socioeconomic background, we tend to put our worth in our things. I'm gonna show them I'm the SHI because I'm gonna get these Jordans. And I had all of that. I had Jordan. I was always fly. Thank you, grace of God. I was always fly, right? But still, I didn't master that insecurity. Or I'm gonna go get that money and show them that I'm successful. That was all rooted in that childhood stuff of, you live in the adolescence, or when you get older, you live in a projects and stuff like that. All that stuff plays with you. So you have to find out what's at the roots and deal with it. And what triggers your insecurities. I knew that was a very big trigger for me. And it's so funny, my homegirl would be like, Maria, that's only a problem for you. Nobody else is judging you, but I was judging myself.
Mm-hmm.
So because of what I went through, and what that, I was associating Maria's worthiness with what her address was, when that wasn't the truth. So that's what I mean. It's like, you got to ask yourself, is what you're believing about yourself true? And man, another thing, well, this is another thing I would say. There's a book I think changed the game for me outside of the Bible. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. If anybody wants, I think every girl, every young woman should see it, because she talks about vulnerability and worthiness. And I think sometimes you just got to outsource and get the help, whether it's therapy, books, trusted people that you can listen to. Who she's actually a clinic, she's a researcher, so she's not just someone who decided to have a podcast, right? Like, she's actually someone who, this is what she's done. She's of the research, and it's like, okay, I don't want to say she's not, she has a PhD, so she is a doctor, I guess, but you want to read those things that can be helpful, and yeah, honestly, at the end of the day, you gotta know that you're enough. And that's what that book taught me. It's like, you belong and you are enough. And somebody just posted this, my cousin just posted this the other day, and I thought it was so dope. She said, you better walk in that room like God sent you there. Like, that is like powerful. Whenever you feel like you're not enough, you're insecure, you better act like you in that room, you in that class, you in that relationship, you in that friendship, you at that meeting. You better act like God sent you there. So that's what I have. Now, how I know this is going to be a little longer than I anticipated, but how would you go about combating insecurities and turning them into being self-assured?
I feel like you really hit the nail on the head, but for me, how would I turn the insecurities into self-assurance? I feel like therapy, even though some people are against it, I feel like it could be a big help, especially when it comes down to unpacking where the root of those insecurities are coming from, because they could be from like childhood things, they could be from traumatic events that you don't even think could play into insecurities, but they do. And I feel like if you trying to do certain tips and tricks and that's not helping, I feel like therapy could be a really good option and it's something that people should explore. Um, Combating insecurities, I had something that I wanted to say, but I don't know how to exactly word it. But when I speak with my friends about the insecurities that I'm having, and they're like, oh, like uplifting me and whatever, I'm like, oh, like you're doing great and X, Y, and Z. And then when I go home and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna speak out these insecurities to myself. And I know it sounds weird, like when you're speaking negatively to yourself out loud, this is like, okay, I'm doing this in my head. Why am I, it doesn't sound right when you're saying it out loud.
Mm,
And it's like, oh, like looking at yourself in the mirror saying, I'm stupid. I looked at myself, I'm like, what am I talking about? Like,
right. That's
or I'm not
good.
doing this right, or I'm like, that's not true. Like, I know if I sit down and I map it out, like, I can figure this out. So, speaking to myself in those negative ways and like really looking at myself, I'm like, you sound insane. Like, you're okay. Like you can figure this out, or you are beautiful. Like you are popping. It's just like when you do the negative talk out loud, like you
Mhm.
really hear yourself and like, okay. So I feel like if that could work for you, I would say people should try it, like for sure. And then another thing that I would try is writing it down, but then combating that with something that's positive or like the reverse of it. It's like, oh, like I don't feel like I'm intelligent. Give me 3 to 5 sentences is why. I need a paragraph because we need to really unpack that. Because when you really sit in it and think about it, it's like, no, but I do know how to do this thing. Or I do like the way that I look, or whatever the case may be. I feel like if you speak about it in the negative sense and you're like, okay, this doesn't sound right. How can I make this right? And then turning it into something positive, I feel like that's a good thing to try to do. But I feel like everything you said is very true. I agree with everything that you said.
I love every bit of what you said. That was so powerful. You really became your inner saboteur.
Yes.
And you realize how silly
Yeah.
it sounds. You like, wait, this is not true, right? And again, there's power in your voice.
Hmm.
So I think that's so dope. And I'm actually gonna go, is what you said is part of one of the books that I'm gonna share, because that's what as we teach the girls. So remind them, if this is something you like to see, you like what we're saying, we teach this to our young women between July 8th and July 19th at Embrace Her
Hmm.
Legacy Academy. You can apply at embraceherlegacy.com backslash EHL Academy for young women ages 14 to 19. So it might be you, it might be your little sister, it might be your daughter, it might be your niece. But this is what we're teaching, plus more.
Hmm.
Commercial break.
So I feel like when we're having like insecurities, there's things that we're already feeling. But what are
Mm-hmm.
the best ways that you can counteract your inner saboteur or those moments of self-doubt when they're like right in the moment, like happening right now?
I think you did a good job, right? But I think, right, in those moments, like, you're going to have your arsenal of weapons ready.
Hmm.
Like, this is why you need practice. So when you go to war, you don't just show up on a battlefield. Somebody told me something the other day, and he was like, um, we all on the we all have the same. He was like, we all on the field. We all on the field. Pretty much, we all have the same. We're all fighting different battles, but we're all on the same field, right? So everybody's gonna have to have some type of battle, but you don't just go to battle like unprepared. This is why you have your arsenal, and that comes with
Hmm.
practice. So I think you should have things in place already, so that when those thoughts come up, you see how Isis, you just said, you go into the mirror and you speak out those negative thoughts, so that when in the moments happen and you like, wait a minute, this is probably the dumbest thing I am probably making, so in the moment. So I would say first and foremost, like, learn. I love the I did that file, right? And we know about the I did that file. So for those of you who don't know, um, we teach something. I call it the I did that file, where every day, well, it's just started in 2019, where every day at the end of my day, I will write down all the success, all the things I got done towards my dream. So it's towards certain
Hmm.
things, right? And I would just keep track every day, every day, every day. And those moments when I felt the insecurity or the self-doubt, I'm like, well, let me pull out my receipts. I did that file is like a receipt of all the things you've accomplished. So I think that's a good thing to remember. Stop and remember about all the things you have gotten through, all the things you have accomplished, all the times you thought you wasn't gonna and you weren't good enough, and you were. So I would use that to like bring it back to remembrance. I would honestly also stop being judgmental towards yourself
Hmm.
and have a little bit more compassion for ourselves. A lot of us, like, if we make a mistake, especially in a moment, it's like, oh my God, baby girl, everyone make a mistake. So stop being judgmental to yourself and show yourself some grace and compassion. Being judgmental literally means to criticize or condemn someone from a position of assumed moral superiority. We don't like other people judging us, but we do a good job of judging ourselves. So a lot of times, some of us gotta forgive ourselves.
Hmm.
Some of us have to forgive ourselves for how hard we have been ourselves, how we have talked bad about ourselves to but you talk bad about you to you. And honestly, you got to learn to forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it, right?
Hmm.
So sometimes, let's say you in a meeting and you say wrong or you say something incorrectly. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Da, 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 da. It's like, girl, did you know how to do that before the meeting? No. So forgive yourself. You didn't know. You didn't know that you weren't supposed to. Maybe you made maybe you made a faux pas at the job and something happened. You're like, oh my God, you're such an idiot. Did you know? No, you didn't know any better. Or you can be beating yourself up about a relationship that you were in. It's like, no, you didn't know any better. You just did not know any better. Forgive yourself for not knowing any better. Stop trying to think you gotta be Little Mrs. Perfect. So now this is where I want to go into what I learned from this book, another one. Cognitive behavioral therapy. This was actually recommended by my therapist and it actually did a good job. One of the things that the author talks about is when you're dealing with negative thoughts about yourself and negative self-talk, he says, first identify and describe the problem. So if you're having these negative self-doubt thoughts about yourself, first of all, identify and describe it. And pay close attention to when you're feeling those thoughts, what changes in your mood. Isis, you made a good point. Sometimes I need to take social media breaks. That was probably identifying and describing the problem. Sometimes when I'm scrolling on social media, I get to feeling these ways. Boom, right? And it gets you feeling self-doubt, right? There have been times I have come off of a day, baby, I done killed 3 meetings, I get on social media and I'm like, my life is, so you got to identify and describe the problem for you. Second part, set goals. What do you want to feel more of, right? Focus on setting reasonable goals that are good. So if you already are feeling self-doubt, you want to set goals where you're feeling more confident. And what does that look like for you? What's going to bring you confidence? When you hit a goal, that it ignites your confidence. When you hit a goal, whether it's financial, whether it's social, emotional, whether it's family or relationship or something, you're like, oh my God, I feel good. You feel accomplished. You feel good about yourself. Like, dang, I didn't know I was going to do that, but I did it, right? So set some goals around what you want to start feeling more of. And then another step is identify obstacles. So a lot of times we're in these situations. What's the obstacle of you feeling good about yourself? Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's people that you can't share your dreams and your goals and your aspirations with. So identify those obstacles. What's in the way of you getting there? Sometimes, it might be an environment. Sometimes you got to get out. Honestly, I'm a firm believer that there are certain environments that are just not good for you. And in order for you to become the person you need to be, you need to get out that environment. Period. I'm a firm believer that you could be a concrete in a rose, baby, but there's a rose in rose growing out of concrete, but there's a time you gotta put that rose in some good soil. So you might have to I don't know what that looks like for someone, and I wasn't even planning on saying that, so maybe that's for somebody, and maybe you needed to hear that. You just gotta get out of the environment that you're in. And finally, challenging intrusive thoughts, because that's what you were talking about. This is what these are. And what you said is writing down. So it's like the positive affirmation. So it's something called, you can keep a thought journal, but the first thing, so you're going to write one for the thought. So let's say you're like, the thought is telling you you're a failure because you didn't get the job, right? That's the thought, right? And then one's the evidence for the thought. Okay, you didn't get the job, right? Then you want another evidence against the thought. It's like, well, what makes me a failure? Yeah, I didn't get that job, but I have 4 more job interviews coming, right? And I feel confident that I can at least land one of them. Then you create a new alternative thought. Like, I'm not a failure. Yes, I did not get the job. That does not make me a failure. But you know what? I have more interviews coming down the way. So, I'm gonna keep it pushing. So that's what I would say about just tangible ways to counteract those things. And baby, I'm a believer, so I love a good list of scriptures because it's nothing like the word of God. But if you share that faith, I always hold up my feelings to what God says. And what did God say? That's what I tell myself. It's so funny. I was actually just watching a sermon just called "What Did God Say?" So at the end of the day, for me, I can't count on me all the time. There are days I'm like, oh no, but baby, when I get it, I'm like, what did God say? That's gonna walk me through those feelings of not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy. So what about you? How would you counteract thoughts of self-doubt
For self-doubt, sometimes depending on the situation in which you're feeling self-doubt, I would say step away. Like for an example, if you're a student and you're writing an essay and you're having like a funk and you're just the words are just not coming out, the paragraphs is not paragraphing like how they're supposed to, and it's like, okay, I feel like a failure, I'm not gonna get this done in time. Sometimes it's best to just step away for a second, like from the thing that's making you feel doubtful. It's like, all right, maybe you just need to close your laptop for 20 minutes, regain your thoughts, and go back to it. You can't do that in every situation, of course, but when it applies, I would say definitely just step away for a second and give yourself some time, some grace. That's really important. Also, I feel like kind of like what I was saying before with the if you can't, you the trust that you put in others is the same that you should put into yourself. The way that you would not want someone to speak to you is kind of like the same way that you should not want to speak to yourself. Like you wouldn't want anybody to tell you that you're stupid or that you're ugly. So it's like you shouldn't want to speak like that to yourself. It's easier said than done, of course, but I feel like that's a great way to think about. I'm being so
Your sound went out. Okay, you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I wouldn't want someone to speak to me in that way. Like I would fall out with somebody if they were to speak to me that way, but you can't fall out with you. So it's like the only thing that you can do is say, okay, there's a problem here. I need to figure it out. And I feel like that's the first step when it comes to insecurities, understanding that there is something there and saying, okay, I want to get rid of it. And I feel like that's a really good action to like counteract the self-doubt. If you know that there's something there, you can at least say, okay, now I know that I need to take the steps to fix it. And then that goes to question number one. What steps can you do to figure out your conflict? So I feel like that's true. And I know there's different faiths out there, but for me, when I'm having a really doubtful day, I pray about it. I cry about it. And I feel like that really helps me. That's the way that I physically get the doubt out. Cry it out. So honestly, try it. It helps.
Baby, I'm good for a good cry. I'm
Mhm.
good for a good cry, and I've been having a few of them lately, and I'm just like, and people say that's weakness, but I know me and my temperament. It actually, my temperament says you have to cry it out, and I am a firm believer. Sometimes you just gotta cry
Mhm.
and take a beat. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. If your voice doesn't know how to say it, sometimes your tears will.
Woo! That girl, that was a sermon right there. That was a sermon right there. If your voice does not know how to say it, sometimes your tears do. Ooh, Jesus, that was good.
Well, I want to, dabble into now the rejection part of this live because I feel like it's something that we should definitely touch on. How can you gain motivation and confidence to build yourself back up when you've been rejected? Whether it's a job, a relationship, how do you work on
Nobody likes rejection. I don't know people who
that?
do, right? And I feel for people who are industries who where they're constantly getting rejected, like actors and actresses, and you're going up for roles, and it's like no, 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 no. And I hear no's a lot. I hear
Mhm.
no's. I hear no's a lot. I get the, unfortunately, I get that. I used to take those so personally. Now I don't. And I have kind of like a system in place for that. And the first thing is I take a moment and acknowledge how I feel. Right. And we actually did a video on this. It's on our YouTube page, how to deal with disappointment. If anybody, it's like a 4 or 5 minute video because last year I had this opportunity that didn't fall through and I was not. I was disappointed for like a day, and I don't like a two days, and that's not me. Normally, I'm disappointed for like but that one I was really looking forward to, and it just fell through, right? So first, to take a moment, acknowledge how you feel, take a beat, like I had to back off. And I think sometimes we as women, especially being the strong black woman stereotype, which I'm so over, we think like, oh my God, I'm supposed to act like whatever. It doesn't, no, I had to acknowledge at that point that I was like, oh, I was disappointed. This opportunity didn't pan out the way I expected to. So first and foremost, acknowledge how you feel. You're okay. It's okay to feel those feelings. Just don't stay there. And the process to get back up is, first, remember that you're not your circumstances again. Just because you got rejected, you didn't get the part, the job, someone broke up with you, whatever, you weren't voted class president, whatever, you are not that circumstance. You are not, it's just a season, it's just one experience. You're not that. Take Depending on what level the rejection is for me and the opportunity, I had to take a beat. And what I meant was I took time to do nothing. And that's not easy for me to do. And I had to take my time to, so it was an opportunity. I thought I was going to get it. So let's say when I realized I wasn't, I was just feeling those feelings. That night, I took the time and I watched a movie that had absolutely nothing to do with anything. I could not look at anything Embrace. I could not look at anything work related, baby. I was Netflixing some movie that was really cute and good. And it just got me into a good space. It got
Hmm.
me into This Is Maria. This is, I love watching like black love romantic movies. It was one of those. Took a moment, and what did I do? I rested. I slept that night. I slept that. I think the movie ended up watching me. I went into it, and the one thing I asked God, I said, God, just help me to sleep well. And when I slept and I rested well, I woke up and I felt refreshed. I felt reinvigorated and I felt renewed. And I was able to then write down what I was feeling. I was like, okay, what am I feeling? And I wrote down what I was feeling and why I was feeling that way. And then ask yourself, what did that experience teach you? In this particular instance, it was like career job related, and it taught me, because the opportunity wasn't on my radar. It came on my radar, then it went away. And I said, wow, this experience taught me that these are the type of opportunities that I would love to explore, and I would add another, not only income stream, but add another skill set to my resume and my repertoire of work. And after I did that, and then I asked myself, or ask yourself, is there anything you could have done differently? Sometimes there isn't. In this situation, it wasn't. There was nothing I could have done differently. It just wasn't panned out. But if you can't ask yourself if it's a job, if it's a relationship, do some self assessment. Like sometimes it be you,
And that's
sometimes you.
hard to say, but sometimes it be.
And I'm gonna say it again, ladies, because sometimes, ladies, we act like it's always them. No, sis, it was you. It was you. So ask yourself what you could have done differently, what you can do better next time. Like, you know what? I was maybe in a relationship situation, you can say, you know what, you can take accountability that you were insecure and you were checking that person's phone and you were just disrespecting that person's boundaries because you were insecure. Maybe in a job interview, you didn't get it, you didn't do your research before you went on the interview. Maybe, maybe there's nothing you could do and you just got laid off at your job. So I would just say, try to assess and then implement those changes. Write it out, assess it out, take a beat. Okay, get back up again, and I'm gonna try again, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's like a routine, because rejection is a part of the game. It's a part of life. You're not going to win every basketball game. You're not going to win every tennis match. You're not going to get accepted to every school you apply to. You're not
Hmm.
going to get every scholarship. You're not going to get every job. You're not going to get every internship. I have a friend who literally went on like dozens of interviews before she got a job that she really wanted, right? For like over a year.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like, sometimes you got to be. And one thing that we did in that time, we took a vacation. That helps too.
That,
So sometimes if you
that
can't,
always helps.
it helps. It helps because we all needed to take a beat at that moment. So again, but she needed, again, rest and restoration. So you have to identify if your experiences, especially if it's a goal, like a job that it may take, some time, a relationship, you still not finding the right one or whatever, you're building an organization, you're trying to build your business, whatever it is, that these things that may a little, these goals that may take a little bit more time, definitely you're going to experience rejection. So have systems in play so that when it happens, you're like, okay, let me Netflix and chill tonight. Or
Hmm.
let me get on a vacation, or let me call my homegirls. Do something restorative, like, to get you out of it. Because the last thing you want to do is let that rejection state, punk you out so that
Hmm.
you can stay there. Because then you open in the door gates to go into, sadness. And it's like, girl, you be all right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? How would you get back up from rejection?
You just said it, honestly. Whenever I feel like something doesn't go my way, I'm instantly like, I need to get something good to eat. I
Mm.
need to watch Netflix. I need to get away from the thing that made me feel this way. I need to call up my homegirls. We need to go have some dinner and do something. Whenever I feel like I've been rejected, I instantly have to do something that's going to uplift my spirits because I know personally that I don't want to stay there. And to anyone out there, I know you don't want to stay there. It's not a fun feeling to be like, oh my gosh, like this didn't go well for me. I feel like you should always implement something positive after you've been rejected. Like even if it's just ordering your favorite meal, that can really change your spirit for sure. So that's number one. Honestly, life's rejections to me is God's protections. I feel like there's something better for you out there. He said no because somebody else, something better is going to say yes. So just be patient. We did that podcast episode about God's waiting room, and I feel like that definitely plays into the rejection portion. It's like, okay, the job said no, but you do have interviews coming up. There's still other job applications that you can dabble into. Maybe you got rejected and then you can sit back and be like, you know what? Maybe that company didn't necessarily align with me. Let me try to do some deeper research. Maybe I can find something that actually does work out a little bit better for me. And you never know what could come from that. So I feel like that can definitely build up your confidence. You know what? That didn't work out because it wasn't meant for me. Let me find something that better aligns with me. I feel like that builds my confidence instantly. Because I'm like, you know what? It's okay. There are better opportunities out there. There's not only one job out there. There's going to be tons of them. Just like how you said, your friend was applying to jobs for a very long time, and she found the one that stuck. So it's like there is going to be something that sticks. So that's something that gives me that motivation for sure. And just understanding that life is not perfect because there's no such thing as perfection, and that we're gonna have to take our L's. We really are. We're gonna have to take our L's. It's a part of growing. It's a part of realizing a lot of things about yourself and being okay with the fact that you are gonna make mistakes or there are gonna be some, pushback in life. And be like, okay, what did I learn from this? What can I take from this to fuel my fire to now push me and get me one step forward to where I really want to be? Like, how can this rejection help me step into the woman that I want to become? And I guess going back to my I did that file can definitely help you gain that confidence. Okay, I didn't get this job interview, or maybe my relationship didn't work out how I wanted it to, but I did do this amazing thing last week, or I did do this amazing thing yesterday, or even today. So it's like, yes, I had this one negative thing, but I have 1,000 positive things to talk about. So I feel like that's really important when it comes to rejection.
Uh, I agree. I love that. I love that. And you actually answered my next answer, but go ahead. Go ahead. I'm really forward.
Oh, yeah, I feel like we dabbled into it a little bit, but when it comes to the relationship aspect or a job or a friendship, because I feel like people don't talk about rejection in friendships, how can we better handle those type of situations?
That is a good one. The rejection from a friend. Whew, that's
Mm-hmm.
And in my notes, the first thing I have is rejection is God's protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. And I think that's something we've always talked about. And I need you to, with that, believe that everything's working together for your good. So it may not feel good, but it's working together for your good. Sometimes it's best that you're not in a relationship. You don't get that opportunity because you just might not be ready, or God is protecting you for something.
Mm-hmm.
So God may see the whole picture, and you over here like, oh, I don't have the opportunity. You didn't know that that job at that company, they're about to close in 6 months. You know what I'm saying? Like they're about to lay off half the staff, and the reason
Mm-hmm.
why you didn't get that job is because God sees that. Obviously, He's the Alpha, the Omega, the all-knowing, all-sufficient one. So that's why you didn't get it, right? You gotta trust God. And there's a scripture in Psalm 84:11. He says, "No good thing will He withhold from you." So if it's not, you don't have it, it's because it's not good for you. And I always remember that. I'm like, all right, God. There was actually a situation recently where we were supposed to have, and I'll tell you this, we were supposed to have someone else come on the team, and she just never replied. And I remember that scripture saying, no good thing will I withhold you. And I said, all right, God, she's not a good situation for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps in those circumstances where you're like, all right, the rejection, it's God's protection. And let me tell you something I realized. I CEO a lot, and I think there's a lot of things I do behind the scenes that I don't share. It's not that I'm not. It's just I'm just whatever. It's the role, And this year, the first quarter of this year, I spent a significant amount of time doing a lot of infrastructural board work, foundation grant proposals, a lot of things that are like on the higher level. And I was applying for some grant funding that I had previously applied for years prior. And I'm the queen of a copy paste. I keep all our files in the same area. So I was looking at the new proposal that I had to write, which I found out was due like a week before it was due. I was like, but I looked at those proposals that I wrote previously and I said I was not ready. And all those times I would get the rejection emails, the unfortunately you can't get the grant. We see those. And I used to take them personally. And now I'm like, God, I was not ready. I read them proposals. This is literally 1 year ago. And I said, I wouldn't give me that money either. So sometimes you have to understand that you're not ready. You're just not ready. And another thing, like, don't take it personally, right? Especially if it's a job.
Mhm.
Sometimes it has
Mhm.
absolutely nothing to do with you. Sometimes it's just not in their budget. Sometimes it's not the time. Sometimes, it's about a team placement situation, right? Sometimes they want to, maybe there's nepotism and they want to have someone on the job that is related to them. Maybe the CEO is going to have his godson take the role. Don't take that personally. The CEO is looking out for their nephew or
Mhm.
their godson. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Like recently, it was like the battle of all battles for the interns this semester,
Mhm.
right? It was like these girls came out swinging, and we were like, oh my God, like all this great talent. We just didn't have enough slots. There was only 2 slots. These are the two, and it was like, okay, who's gonna work better? Whose strengths match better with whose weaknesses, right? So sometimes it's totally not you, and honestly, it's all God is all working together for your right. Yes, I was rejected from a relationship, and baby, I took that hard, right? When someone says I don't want to be with you, and I didn't understand why. And I remember one day, because I thought that was the person I was going to marry and all this stuff. And I remember one day with tears in my eyes, walking to church, I said, God, I'm going to lay it at the altar because I can't walk and I'm going to trust you. I didn't know that rejection situation was preparing me for the things and the people and the relationships I was going to experience after. Had I not gone through that, I would have fumbled the ball for the real thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes those rejections are practice. They're just practice so that when the real thing shows up and you like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know this play. I know this play because I went through it before. And the thing about it is it wasn't that season for you to be on the championship team. Does that make sense? It's like
Mhm.
maybe you fumbled the ball in a situation. Maybe you didn't make the track team, right? Let's look at what's her name? Shakari Richardson, right?
Mhm.
She wasn't supposed to make it in 2021, baby, but God didn't know 2023 she was going to come out swinging. But what changed about her? She said, I love our interview. She said, I know I belong here. Right? The 2021, the embarrassment, the oh my God, the whole country's making fun of you because you got caught with weed or whatever it was that she had, and that's why she couldn't make the Olympic team. Now I see her like she's doing her thing again. That rejection, she wasn't ready. And sometimes we may cry and think we are ready for the stages and
Mhm.
the platforms. And God is like, you are not ready to even handle the level of significance that I'm going to put you on. So for your protection, no, you're not going to make the team. For your
Mhm.
protection, no, you're not going to be in a relationship. You can't, because a lot of us don't even have the character or the tenacity, the resilience with the tough skin that you need to be in certain spaces. You want all that millions of followers and you're not getting it because you're not ready, because the minute
Mhm.
somebody tells you that they don't like what you're doing, you're gonna go cry about it. And that's what
Mhm.
God is like, you're not ready. So I say that to say, like, man, you just may not be ready. But the last thing about friends, And people, when they decide to walk out of your life, I am a firm believer, and I said this in the previous slide, you have to let other people practice their free will. You know, if someone chooses not to engage with you, someone chooses not to be your friend, you have to let them practice their free will and let them lead and respect the season, because people come into your life, I believe, for reasons, seasons, and lifetimes. So sometimes the season for a friendship may be over, right? That's hard to swallow. But in a season of a friendship when it might be over, you want to accept it the same way it's well, it's actually kind of nice. I'm about to say, well, it's kind of weird right now, but in the wintertime, you're not going to wear chancletas out. You're not going to wear your flip-flops because you respect the season. In the summertime, you're not going to wear your mink and your fur because you respect the season. You're not going to drink rotten milk. Why? Because if you drink rotten milk, it's going to have a negative effect on you, right? So the same thing with your friendships, and you experience rejection in there, you have to respect the season and don't drink the rotten milk because it's spoiled, it's out of season. And if the more you try to hold on to people when they're out of season in your life, the more toxic it's going to be for you. And you have to identify that. It might hurt, it's going to be lonely, you're going to cry on your pillow, it's going to be you and Netflix. But you got to learn to understand that if I keep this person in my life and they're rejecting me, because people tell you how they are, people tell you how they feel about you. And if someone is telling you that they don't want to be with you, they don't want to be your friend, and you continue to engage with them, the only thing you're doing is opening a door for more rejection and trying to love people who don't want to be loved by you. The only person you are in is yourself. So I would say keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. And that's how you deal with rejection. God is protecting you. The season is over. Okay. So I would love to know, when we're talking about dealing with rejection, how would you deal with it on a more job, personal, relationship level? Because I think that's probably where it hurts the most, is when like it's like relationships or jobs, anything like that.
For me, I can actually speak to this personally because I was in a relationship when I got into embracing like 2020, and I thought that that was gonna be my husband. That was my bookie. I was like, oh my gosh, like I love him. And then once like the relationship started getting down to like its wit's end, and it did end up not working out. We ended up breaking up. Uh, he ended up breaking up with me. And of course, I'm hurt. I have to sit in that. And then after a while, I'm like I said, I like to cry, I like to pray. I'm praying about it, I'm crying about it. I'm like, I don't understand. Like I felt like I was so good at X, Y, and Z. And once I got over that, I guess grieving period, I was like, oh baby, you played a major role in that. Like you kind of played into the rejection, I guess you could say, because I wasn't ready. Like I wanted this beautiful relationship, but I was not making it a beautiful space, if that makes sense. Like I was doing certain things that, looking back, it's like I wouldn't want to be with you at the time either. Like you had a lot of things to grow on and you wasn't ready yet. And I feel like God was like, okay, I'm gonna take him out because you need to do your own work. You need to just deal with Isis, and Isis by herself. And I didn't understand it at the time. But once I got over that, season of being sad, I'm like, no, I needed this. Like, not to say that he was dragging me down or anything, but I feel like when we separated, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was felt like I was just with him, but it wasn't Isis. Like, where is she? Like, what's happening? And I feel like I got to work on myself because of the rejection. So I say that to say, use the rejection as to fuel your fire. And that happened to me, but I was able to elevate. I'm like, you know what? These are some of the things that I feel like I did wrong in the relationship. And now that I see that, the next time I get into a relationship, I can do it better. And I prayed about it. I kid you not, Maria. I was like, the next relationship that I get into, I'm going to do it better the next time around. And here I am. I
Look.
did not date for a long time because I was like, I know I'm not ready. And he came along when I didn't want a boyfriend. But God was like, no, you're ready. You could do it. And here I am. So sometimes when it comes to rejection, take it, be sad, cry about it, but really reflect on the things that you can take from that and what you can use to learn and grow. And God will continue to throw those tests in your face until you learn from them. So if it keeps popping up, don't be like, oh my gosh, no, this is meant for me. Sometimes he's like, no, baby, you gotta learn. So that's what I would say.
love that. Isis, you answered that so well and so beautifully, so articulate when you said that. Ah, I love that. She said, "Sometimes you're just not ready.
And
You're
that's
just not ready."
okay.
And that's so right. And I love how you said it showed up when you weren't looking. I don't know what that is, and I know this has nothing to do with the topic, but maybe people can relate. And I want to address that question. After I make this comment, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like the best things in life come when you're not looking.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's love, relationships, opportunities. My biggest opportunities came when I wasn't looking for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I wasn't trying to get on a TED stage, I got invited to do a TED talk. When I wasn't trying to get myself in Forbes, I got in, like that's when I got my first feature. Or when I wasn't trying to fall in love, here comes somebody just, yanking me off these streets. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like that goes to, that's something about that. When you're just like living, learning from your mistakes, when you're going with the flow,
Mm-hmm.
not pushing for the next opportunity, the next job. My friend that I said who had the job, who was looking for the job for a year, she ended up getting a new job 2 years ago, right? And it wasn't the salary that she wanted, like her target salary, but it was still a good jump
Mm-hmm.
for where she was. A couple of months ago, minding her business, someone is like, "Hey, I think it'll be good for this opportunity for this job." She literally lands the job, making her ideal. She's been talking about this number for the last, I want to say, 4 years, target number that she wanted to make, and she literally fell in her lap. She didn't have to apply. Her resume wasn't even updated. She just walked into the interview, killed it, had confidence in herself. Boom, she got the job. But 3, 4 years ago, it was toiling and, oh, I need to. Oh my God, I gotta apply. You don't get it like that. I said something about that. I think when you're just living, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that job. I'm telling you, Isis, I kid you not. There is not one of my like big moments, love, relationship, funding, anything that came because I was looking for it. It just came. It's just like boom,
And there's
here.
beauty in that. Sometimes God is just like, no, this is meant for you. I'm gonna put it on your lap. See what you do with it.
Beauty is so because you feel seen. You feel like, oh my God, I didn't even know it was even like my
Right.
funnest times out. Like when I'm hanging out with my friends. Oh my God, I didn't even know I was gonna have this much fun. You know I needed this. Like it's like those things that you didn't even know. Like you just like, I'm just going out. Next thing you know, you have the time of your life. So we'd love to know about internships and mentoring. Yes, go to embraceherlegacy.com/join our team. Is it join the team or
Join
join
dash
our
R dash team.
Okay, I just know the join dash our dash team. You can definitely learn about internship opportunities and things like that there.
And
Right.
thank you for your kind words. Like, thank you for tuning in and, enjoying what Embrace Your Legacy does too.
Thank you. Thank you. We love all the
Yes.
support. Mhm.
I also wanted to get into something too, because of course, being rejected, it sucks. But what do you do when you are rejecting someone else? Because I know it's hard to be the bearer of bad news. So how do we get comfortable with having to, reject someone or something?
Okay. I don't know where I heard this from. My therapist. Shout out to her. She said something to me and it resonated. She said, Maria, it's important for you to know that you need to have your needs met too.
Hmm.
Your feelings matter, your needs and your boundaries matter. Like I need to have my needs met too, meaning that if something isn't up to your standards, if something is uncomfortable for you, if you don't like something, it's okay. It's okay for you to have that level of self-awareness to say, I don't want this opportunity. I don't want to deal with you or whatever. So first you gotta like, it's okay for you to have your needs met. It's okay for you to have your boundaries set and respected.
Hmm.
That's part of life. And another thing my therapist taught me, she was like, Maria, how other people respond to your boundaries is none of your concern. You just set the boundary and or set whatever it is, in this case, a rejection, but do it with class. Don't do it with emotions. Don't do it like, oh, F you because I think you ugly. That's not nice. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that we don't want to do that. But so I would say when I know I'm about to say something that's going to be a difficult conversation, which I'm gonna get to in a second, I try to make it as this is when corporate America skills come in. Because it's like you want to start out, it's something called the sandwiches. Start with the positive, give the rejection the negative or whatever, and end off with something positive. So say, like express. So it's hard for me to say this, it's really uncomfortable for me to say this, but whatever you need to say. So another thing my therapist told me is use I statements instead of I.
Mm,
So it'll be like, it's important for me that I feel attracted to someone that I'm dating, and you're great, you're awesome, you're amazing. I like that you're athletic. I don't know, you like to research stocks at night. I don't know, something that you like about them, like you're smart, you're athletic, you're funny. I think that's great, but it's also important for me to be physically attracted to someone, and I just don't feel those feelings about you. And I think you're great. You deserve to be with someone who feels that, who's going to give it all, because I think you're amazing. And I'm just not the one for you, right? So I think I'm just going to have to, move forward. My niece, I heard her say something to someone. She said, listen, she was like, I'm just not, I don't want to lead you on. I think you're great, but I'm not in the space to really, engage with you on a dating love
mhm.
level, but I'm willing to be your friend. If you can respect that, we'll just be friends. These are not comfortable conversations.
No.
You just gonna have to say it in the most tactful, tasteful way, and be mindful and considerate of that other person's feelings. Someone I know, he knows that I'm sensitive, and one thing I love about him is that he, even though it's not easy, it's not his second, it doesn't come like me as second nature to be positive and to be sweet. That's not him. But he'll tell me, he'll be like, you know what, I know you're sensitive, so I'm gonna say it like this. Or I see him trying, he's considering me, right? So
Mhm.
consider the person that you're talking to when you're saying that. And I appreciate him so much when he does that, because I'm like, oh, you do love me. Like, because he understands, like, Maria's a little sensitive. So be tactful to how you're saying things. Like I said, don't just be like, F you, I don't like you. But,
Mhm.
be sensitive to them. And honestly, the next thing, the last thing, like I said, these are difficult conversations. This is the last book I have. I think everyone should read that. It's called Difficult Conversations, How to Discuss What Matters Most. And this is a really good book to have, like, those difficult conversations when you feel like you're rejecting someone and you want to, like, speak up for yourself. Yeah, so I would definitely speak up. And honestly, y'all, it's just important for you to live by your values, you to have your needs met, that's how you feel. And again, back to what we said, like when you practice things and you'll be confident, when you start speaking up and being honest about how you feel, and it might involve rejecting people, you're going to feel so empowered. You're going to feel so good about yourself. Like, I spoke up. I may have rejected them, but instead of like ghosting, this generation is really irresponsible and very immature with just ghosting or not replying to, emails, or, with situations I've had people apply for things and then ghost. I'm like, you would have just said you weren't interested. Like, no one's gonna die. It's not that serious. It shows value. It shows your character when you don't have the courage or the integrity to be honest with someone about an opportunity you no longer want to engage with, or someone you no longer be with. Honestly, there's a word I was going to use, but I remember I'm saved and I remembered that I'm on live, but
I have an
you know,
idea.
I was gonna say, if you from the hood, you know what I mean, and I didn't say it, but you thought it, and that's what it
Mhm.
was. And Father, I'm sorry. That's what I feel about that. But how would you deal with, it's not comfortable rejecting people, so, or an opportunity? How would you deal with that without
And
feeling guilty?
for me personally, I never feel guilty. I know there's people out there they scared, but when it don't work for me, oh baby, I gotta hand it to you. I gotta tell you. But I'm sensitive, so I am very conscious and aware of how I'm delivering these bad notes. Like, of course, I've had to reject people before, like, hey, I just don't feel like this is gonna work for me. I have gotten very good at the I talk because I feel like it's so easy to be like, yeah, you're not doing this for me, you're not doing that, da da da, like you're a bad friend, blah blah blah. I feel like if you can, connect it back to how you are personally feeling, like I am this, I am that, then I feel like it softens the blow a little bit. And just you don't want to be in a space where you're personally not comfortable, or you don't want to be in a space where you feel like it's not aligning with your morals or your values. So it's like sometimes you just have to rip the bandage off and be like, okay, there is a better space for me. There might be a better partner for me or a better friendship for me. I do not have to stay here. The same way that you were like that people choose to be with you, like people choose to be your partner, you have a choice and you don't have to be in that uncomfortable situation. So I feel like that can help people be like, okay, I shouldn't feel guilty about this because it's better for me. And by doing this, I'm creating an opportunity for the other person to find something better for them because
Mhm.
obviously it's not gonna work for the both of us. So I feel like when it comes down to having these hard conversations, making that the root of it, like this is for the really the better of the both of us. Even though you might want this, it's not gonna work for me, and this is gonna be more cohesive if we just part
Mhm.
ways. With friends, I hate losing friends. I really do, because you can those are your homegirls. I don't like it, but when there's reasons and seasons, and I feel like I'm only 22. I'm actively growing. I'm changing every day. So it's like I might be friends with you today, but maybe in a year our lives change drastically, and I feel like we do need to part ways. And that doesn't change all the great memories that we have, all the things that you've helped me overcome, that I've helped you overcome. But you know what? I wish you the best, and I feel like it's time for us to part ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like just understanding that there's nothing wrong with being the person that is delivering the rejection. Because there really isn't anything wrong with rejection. It's a part of life. So that's what I would tell someone.
I love that. I think you did good. Let me find out Isis is out here. She said, if I feel it, I gotta say it. Oh my
I
God.
must say it. I'm sorry. I'm just that type of person. If it has to be said, oh, baby, I'm going to say it.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, we're getting down to the last question, y'all.
Hmm.
Is self-venting reliable if there's no one else to vent to? I really want to hear your
This,
answer to this, honestly.
you sir, I've said this self pep talk, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't mind. It's like, girl, you gotta look in that mirror, and like you said, you looking at you talking your inner saboteur. You like, yeah. I think it's good to have self pep talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
To pep yourself up. I think we don't necessarily grow to the best of our ability that way. I think it's good, but you also need to have at least one person that you trust that you can talk to sometimes, not about everything. There are
Mm-hmm.
things I go through that is me and the good Lord Jesus Christ, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else needs to go through. And I know why, because I don't want to taint what I believe God is showing me to do, and I don't need your opinions. And people love to give their opinions and stuff like that. So, and I say that to say, which brings me to the point, circle back to the point, speak to someone that you trust or who loves you and let them know what you need. Sometimes, sometimes someone just told me this, and I thought it was powerful. She said, when people talk to me, I ask them, do you want me to just listen or are you looking for my advice?
Mm-hmm.
Game changer. There are times that I just want to vent. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There are times I'm like, baby, just let's put out the strawberries and the chocolates, and let's have maybe there might be a glass of wine in the room. But girl, I just came to just vent. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want y'all's advice, and that's what you need to do. And when you're talking to people, give them a boundary. Recently, I just did that to someone. I was like, I just need you to listen. I don't need advice. And I asked someone, I think yesterday, I was like, well, what do you want? You want my advice or do you want me to listen? Right? So, because sometimes people just need to get it off, right? And I don't think it's reliable to always get it off on you because sometimes you just need to get it out. This weekend I had a moment. Maybe I was in here. I had a moment. I needed to get it out. And my homegirl called. I called my homegirl. She was like, "Sis, just go to sleep, rest. You needed to get that out." And because she was like, sometimes it's not good to just leave it all in, right? So you get it out. It's an
Mm-hmm.
outlet. God didn't create us to do life alone. He created us to do life in community. So, like I said, if it's just one person. Now, sometimes that one person might be a therapist. And I highly suggest that because a therapist is coming from a non judgmental zone.
Mm-hmm.
They're a good place to listen. They can see things that you don't. So I would definitely suggest that. And finally, my favorite, we already talked about it. Talk to God about it. Let me tell you, God is right there listening to me, and I will really talk to him because he's my dad, he's my best friend, and I'm like, Father, did you see that? I'm feeling this way. Am I bugging? Like, or like just vent it out or cry it out to him. When you had, like you said, I still thought that was powerful. You said sometimes when you don't have the words to say, your tears will speak it all. So, and sometimes when you feel like you really don't, you do. He's right there and he's waiting and he's listening and he cares enough to respond. It may not be in that moment, but trust and believe. He cares enough to respond. And that gives me the hope of all hopes. That when I'm feeling those ways, I'm like, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you about what I'm going through. So that's what I would say. What about you? This is an interesting question about self venting. How do you
Yeah.
feel about it?
For me, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I don't talk to myself. I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I do sometimes when I'm going through things and I'm just like, I need to just speak it out loud. So I'm like, am I bugging? Like, she said this to me, but I really just don't understand, like, why, blah, blah, blah. I really do that a lot just so that I could pinpoint things into the conversation. And me personally, I know everybody's faith is different, but I never truly feel like I'm alone because when I am self-venting, I know that he's listening. So it's like he hears me, he sees me, and it's gonna pop up again later in my life. And I'm gonna figure out, okay, maybe I wasn't bugging, or maybe I was. He's showing me exactly what. Um, Honestly, I would say if the people that you keep in your circle, if you feel like you can't vent to them, you need to unpack that. But I feel like you need to have at least one person that you be like, I need to just yap to you about this. But one thing I will say when it comes to venting, you also want to make sure that the person you're venting to can take what you are carrying. And I feel like a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't think about that. Like, oh my gosh, I need to call you, I need to tell you this. But it's like sometimes the other person will be like, hey, I don't even have the mental capacity for that. So then the self-venting does come into play. You know what? I need to be comfortable with being and sitting in these feelings by myself. So I feel like they're both extremely important because there's going to be times when you really don't have anybody that you can vent to. People might be busy, whatever the case may be. So I feel like they're both very beneficial. But when you do have the opportunity, definitely take it to speak to somebody because when you want advice, when there's time you of course you want somebody to listen and you want advice, they might have something to say or they might have a perspective that you didn't even think about. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes two brains are better than one. So that's how I feel. Self-venting is extremely important, but there's also times where you do need someone to listen to you, give you advice, or just hear you out, let you cry, do your thing, and then you can go about it the next day. Go to sleep, have a glass of wine, like you said, maybe have something that you like to eat, and then wake up the next day and be like, okay, we're gonna combat this, we're gonna go about this differently. And that's it.
Yeah,
That's really it.
I love that. Yeah, I think it could be, yep, like you said, sometimes you need to rock it out. And I learned that a lot in my journey as an entrepreneur. I'll be very honest that in that time, I learned how to really, I've always been private to a certain degree. And people don't understand that because, like, yeah, you say your business. I share what I want to share when I want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been very, since I was young, always been one to go to God first, even when I didn't have the relationship that I have with Him now. I always used to be like, yeah, and it was because I felt like I couldn't trust people.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing with venting to people. You also want to talk to people you can trust. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't tell you something and then it ends up on the cover of the family newspaper, because one of the best gossipers are your own family members,
Uh-huh.
right? So, so I'm
And
gonna leave that
I will
right there.
say, when you're in a friend group, when you tell one friend and the whole friend group finds out, it's like, no, I was telling you and just you. That's
Mhm.
important too. Don't be that person. If they're
Mhm.
confiding in you, let them confide in just you.
Good. perfect. I just in my last couple of years have learned to honor that in a from a level of integrity, because sometimes you don't think you're doing wrong, you're like, well, you
Mhm.
told me blah blah blah. Now it's like, no. And again, someone else, he's so tight-lipped with things, and it annoys me, but it inspired me, like, damn, you really not saying anything, like, no, that's not my business to share, so I think that we have to learn to trust other people and respect when people do decide to vent to us, to not go tell the next person, to not be like, oh
Mhm.
girl, so I think for me, I've learned I don't I'm discerning of who I decide to share certain things with, at when and where. So I think it's important for people to be discerning of who you're sharing, because some people send a lot. Another pet peeve is when I'm talking to you, you're not listening. Like, that's a pet peeve of mine. If I'm crying and you talking about, because you looking at Netflix, I'll be like, I'll call you back.
Right.
Yeah.
Forget it. The tears are gone now.
It's just like, forget it. Good night. So to your point, I says, you want to make sure people have the capacity
Mhm.
to listen. And something I didn't share. So I write. I don't know if this is self-venting, but journaling is my jam. When I'm feeling something and my homegirl makes fun of me because I'll be like, let me get my notes. When I'm about to have a difficult conversation with someone, before I have a difficult, let's say if someone did something what I may feel hurt, offended, angry, whatever, I have my notebook and I have my journal, right? And I will sit there and I will write, I'm Maria, what are you feeling? Pinpoint what you feel. I have a whole conversation with myself, and then I sit, and then I wait for the opportunity to bring it up to the person that I may have an issue with.
Mhm.
So I don't do it right then in the moment, because I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. So I think that's a good way of self-venting, is writing down when you feel hurt or rejected, you're feeling the self-doubt, whatever it is that you're feeling, to write it out. I think that's a great way, because now you can be like, all right, what am I really feeling?
I do that
And deal with it.
a lot. In my notes, I don't necessarily write it out, but I do it in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have to have that conversation with somebody, because I wrote it out and I got those emotions out, I feel like I could be way more rational. And whatever I did write out, I'm like, okay, I got an idea of how I'm feeling, and now I can relay that message to you in a way calmer, better way, because I'm not speaking off of emotion. I'm just speaking off of logic. Like, I
Yep.
know what I'm talking about. So I feel like that's extremely
Yep.
important. Because you can just yap at the mouth and be like, oh my gosh, I'm upset about X, Y, and Z. And sometimes it could get misconstrued, it could get messed up, it could mess things up in your relationships, like friendships, job, anything. So writing it down can really make or break some of the conversations that you have.
Yep. I've done it so many times. I'm writing it down and identifying the right
Hmm.
time to bring it up. I know with certain people, bringing it up at that time is not going to work. But if I
Hmm.
write it down, I bring it up the next day, 2 days later, we're calm, we're cool, we're
Hmm.
collected. Maybe, and another thing, and especially to our audience, when it's like the wee something hours in the morning, that's usually not a good time. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, y'all been arguing, that's not a good time. 3 o'clock in the morning, wait till the next morning, get off the phone, revisit the conversation. You should want to preserve the relationship more than feeling like you want to be right. And
Hmm.
that is like, you gotta get over that. And it's like, you know what?
I'm learning that.
Oh,
I'm
oh.
learning that.
Yeah, you have to be willing to do that. So I think timing and reflecting on yourself, and I just so it's. I want everybody to try that. The next time you have to have a difficult conversation or you feeling something, write it out. Write your feelings. Take a moment. Take a beat. Walk away, and then come back with your notes gathered. One of my homegirls, she laughs because I'm like, all right, let me get my notes. She's like, oh, you in these notes. I'm like, yeah, I have my notes. She knows that when I'm about to have a difficult conversation, professional, personal, I have my notes. So yeah, I think that's dope.
Well, that was our last question. We was, skirting away from the questions a little bit, but it's okay. I feel like we gave the audience exactly what they needed. I hope this helps somebody out there. And just know that you are good enough, okay?
Yes,
Mhm.
that was so good, Isis. I think this was by far one of my favorites.
Yes.
I don't think we've ever gotten. We talked about relationships,
Hmm.
career, boss woman, family, the holidays. So we've
Mm-hmm.
never tackled this, and I would love to continue talking about these conversations. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we did a good job. Like I said, if y'all like what y'all hear for the young ladies, for our legacy girls, as we call them, the young ladies, our legends in the making, we have our Embrace Her Legacy Academy. Please feel free to go and apply at embraceherlegacy.com/EHL Academy. Those girls who complete our program then qualify for our college scholarship tuition. And then if you like what you see and you want to actually like do the work, we have different tools and online courses. We have workbooks, ebooks, master classes that you can download at patreon.com/embrace her legacy. Is there anything else that we have coming up? We have some other stuff, but we can't talk about that
Yeah,
yet.
not,
But is there
not yet. Y'all hear it soon, but
we got other stuff coming, but I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and if you're watching, please subscribe or follow. Like, come on now.
right. If you want to see
Right?
more of us, just hit the follow button.
Just hit the follow if you're watching on YouTube because we put this on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe and help
Mhm.
us hit our goals. Follow us on TikTok as well for my youngins. I don't want to say only the youngins on TikTok, but I know Gen Z is y'all on
We
TikTok
love
hard.
ourselves on TikTok.
I know. So we on TikTok as well at Embrace Her Legacy. And if y'all have any ideas for any other lives similar to this
We're
one,
open to it.
we're
If you
open.
have something that you need us to talk about, you need some homegirl inspiration, some advice, we
Yeah,
got you.
we got you. We set it up in a way because I'm the millennial, she's the Gen Z. So we're going to call this like the Gen Zennial conversation.
I like that. I like that.
That's what this is, all right. But all right, ladies, I like our Wednesday. Our next live is next week. We'll be back next week, God willing. Make sure you're following us on the gram to get the alerts of what the next topic will be. Until then, good
Good
night.
night, everyone. Bye.